What's happening on Main Street? Hello, everybody. We have a great show today. It is our month o' love. And we're going to kick things off with my friend who shares love with everything he does. If you follow my friend Tim Hooper, you will learn all about the good stuff happening in the world. How are you, my friend?
Devin, I'm well. How are you? Good to see you again.
It's so good to see you. I've been following your story, you and your sweet wife. You are, now tell people what you are and what you do for a living, because you are one of those inspiring types that I love to share your story.
You know, we all partner with different entities and companies and organizations throughout our lifetime. But if you take all the flagships away, I'm an inspirational speaker and a teacher. It's what I love doing. I get to coach real estate agents and loan officers is what I do today. And Devin, I get to speak in different organizations, different nonprofits, and really just, help people find meaning, help people find abundant life in everything they do. I just said today, how can we change everything that we feel like we have to do into we get to do, right? We're blessed to do. And so inspirational speaker, I guess, would sum up all of the titles.
Yeah. And author, there's a book that is
ma'am.
yours, Got
Yes,
Energy,
ma'am.
3 months to igniting your passion. And it's available on Amazon as long as supplies last. When it comes to books, you sell a lot of them because you do a lot of training.
That's right.
And
yeah. Amazon's great, but most of the time it's in bulk. Whenever we go in to do a training, a company will bring in, 100 or 200 copies. So, yeah, absolutely. That was kind of you to share that on this flip.
Well, it's important that people know that side of what you do, because when you make your living inspiring other people, people think that, oh, well, they're so inspiring because nothing's ever happened to them. They can inspire and be in that great, in that place easily. But you and your wife, Jen, you're a love story, but you're a love story of how in sickness and in health is played out.
Well, I think most of that goes to her, and absolutely to our faith, Devin. It's been a journey. COVID hit, pulled me off the road, so I was in this virtual space, Zoom, WebEx, and I'm a traveler. I love to travel. I love to meet with people, Devin. And so I was a little bit, upset at God, just like, hey, this isn't fair. I like to travel. And a month later, literally the shutdown order was March 2020. And a month later, we're at UVA. She received her diagnosis. Her biopsies came back and she had breast cancer. And little did I know in March, God was allowing me to be home more. And then obviously in 2020, walking through this journey with her, and we had just moved her mom up to live with us in January of 2020. We look back and say, God, wow, you had all the pieces you all along. So.
Well, I've got a little video clip here that kind of tells Jen's story, and we're going to share that right now.
It was a little bit numb. Couldn't believe it was actually happening. And then it was a wave of gratefulness.
I think the first response was just tears. It was kind of a heart-sickening, very fearful time.
There were so many people who were constantly giving cards and meals and packages. That support was overwhelming. Congratulations. They were very patient with me, and they gave me access to be able to call them anytime that I had questions.
She helped our family go through this process, looking at the positive in it. Really see it as not such a monster, but as something she could work through.
The positives would be that I felt God more than I ever have in my life. I have an increased knowing of how much my family loves me. And I'll never be the same person again.
Whew. Wow. What a spirit.
Yeah.
And you guys had a beautiful share on Facebook together as your church family gathered outside your home and prayed for you. And what would it feel like to open your front door and look and see all these people socially distanced out there, but their church family came to you?
Oh, it's such a great question. There's so much of a backstory to that. In fact, a couple weeks after that happened, Jen was able to get on stage, and she's not a speaker. I've told her for years, you're a speaker. Like when you talk, because she doesn't talk much. She's always been an introvert, but when she talks, people listen. When I talk, Devin, I'm a talker, right? So they may or may not listen, but when my wife talks, everyone goes quiet and listens. And she was able to get on and share her testimony. And what people don't realize is the backstory of our family surrounding our home. That morning was especially tough for Jen. We had coffee. I brought her coffee in bed. We had coffee. And she says, honey, I'm just feeling overwhelmed. We had one more treatment to go. And a lot of times the surgery is a big ordeal. You get through that. You have the triumph of getting through that. And then chemo, you ring the bell. And even now the aftermath, right? Getting on a hormone treatment for 10 years. And it's just like, the outreach, the prayers, they haven't died down, but they seem to die down, the encouragement, the support. And it's the backstory. It's it's like the post-traumatic, occasion for a lot of people. In fact, her heart is like being expanded for people coming out of a disease after surgery, like post-surgery. It's like we need to support people. But it was Sunday morning. It was we weren't attending in person because of, again, the pandemic and trying to keep her as protected with her immune system down. So we're going to watch live stream, and our church family knew we're on Facebook commenting on the service, hearting the service, which I'm so thankful for technology. And so I'm down. I said, honey, tell you what, let me let you have this morning, and I'll go downstairs with the kids and we'll just watch the service. You just have this morning and just have some quiet. And so we ended our coffee. She opens her window, which our house in Virginia overlooks the Blue Ridge Mountain. Well, it doesn't overlook, but on the horizon, you can see the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it was like her gift from God 2 years ago when we moved out here. So she opens the window and she's reading a Holly Girth book. And it says, she's reading, it says, you are surrounded. It was the Hebrews 12 story. You're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. And she said, God, I need to feel that. And so I'm downstairs, and it's Sunday morning, and we're tuning into what was supposed to be the service when all of a sudden the dog barks, and we're looking out the window, and all these cars, like we live on some acreage and out in the country, so like they hid all their cars behind some pine trees and building. So we didn't see any cars pulling in, but then all of a sudden like 30 people emerge, Devin, surround the house, and she's upstairs, I'm downstairs, and it's like one of those moments where I'm like, should we go get her? Or should we just accept this, go out, wave hi? But you know what? She needed her time this morning. So in this like husbandly role, I'm like, I'll protect her. We'll just go out. So me and the kids go out on the front porch, and all we hear is these voices on the back side of the house praying. And before long, that circle makes it all the way around, and just prayer after prayer after prayer. They're praying aloud over us on our property. This has never happened before. And then the door opens behind me, and Jen comes out. She came down from upstairs, and her face, like I looked behind, like, because it's this divine interruption. And so I'm like, again, in a kind of protector mode. So I look behind, like, you don't have to come out, but I look in her face. I had no clue what she was reading. I had no clue what she was praying, but all I know is that God gave her a specific surrounded answer. But the funny thing was, he lined this up weeks before she ever prayed the prayer that I need to feel surrounded. Like the church was already planning this. They had a text message group going. They were talking about how prayer is meaningful when we go and anoint people with oil. They, in fact, anointed her with oil from Bethlehem, like Bethlehem. Our church is Bethlehem too, but this was from Bethlehem, like in the Middle East, Bethlehem. They anointed her with olive oil, anointed her for healing, prayed over us, and literally the presence of God surrounded us. And we had just been listening to that song by Nicole. I forget her last name, but you can look it up. Just type in Ring of Fire by Nicole, and I forget her
Nicole
last
C.
name.
Mullen?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Oh,
we had just watched that Saturday night, like the 11-minute YouTube video. You need to watch the video message song because it's amazing. And we had just watched that. So the whole thing, God was just confirming. I am surrounding you. And so she came out, her eyes, her tears were streaming out her face. And right away, this like husbandly protector mode, like dropped. I'm like, wow, I didn't need to be all this. Like she needed this, like she needed this divine interruption. I think through all this, Devin, we've learned open your heart, just open it up radically to what God wants to inject into. Like, he wants to send you so much love and support and messages. I think so many times we have our front door as a defense, or our perfect life as a defense, or it's just like, open up, because
Right.
so many people love you and support you out there.
I was blown away by that story when I first heard it. And I'm so struck by when people, we've got a lot of folks who are weighing in how awesome she is, and how very cool. Yeah, I'm tearing up. I know people are watching. It's like, I can't help it. It's powerful. I love when people live out the story. When people live it out, it's so important. We can talk about it, but when we live it out, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. Well, how can everybody support what you're doing? How can they find out more about what you're doing?
It's funny. When I was in Nashville, it was always pointing people to, buy the book, Amazon, book me to speak. And anymore, Devin, I get too many requests, and it's not about, like, when we moved to Virginia, part of the story there was surrendering all of that, all of my brand and my platform. And it was like, God, this is so much greater than a book or a platform or speaking. Like, what do you have for us? So Jen and I started what's called the Journey Home in Central Virginia. And it's a place of retreat for leaders who feel disconnected with their families. Because that glass house, Devin, that so many leaders end up living in, celebrities end up living in. So we purchased a place off the grid. It's a huge God story. But anyway, we've been able to minister to leaders as couples. They've come out as, single individuals who just needed to gain clarity. But anyway, we started this for literally a journey home to what God has for you, your vision, your purpose, just finding clarity, cutting out the noise of life sometimes, just to get alone with God, to hear from a Father who radically loves you. And so my wife and my vision collided 2 years ago. We have the Journey Home. So I would encourage any listener, I say all that, to follow along on Facebook on the Journey Home page. My wife and I both post on the page. She posts mostly. I post. She actually just said, "Would you start posting on here?" And I'm sure I would love to. So we post on there, and more so now, we just launched a 501c3 around the Journey Home. So you're going to see more and more of the stories and some of what's happening, some of the remodels, some of the fixer-upper that's going on around the place. And it's just a cool story. But anyways, I would invite anyone, if you want your faith to be inspired, your hope to be renewed, and just to experience unconditional love, because that's what God's working in our hearts. Follow the Journey Home, comment, share with us your prayer requests. We would love to partner with you. And if you know of anybody who just needs an encouraging word, even if it's a virtual coffee on Zoom, anymore, that's what we're doing. It just, God, where do you want us? Where do we need to plug in? And you're right, Devin, it's hard. Walking through it's hard. But God did not leave us alone. That's the thing. He did not leave us alone. He said, I will be with you. I mean, Emmanuel, God with us. And so that's what the Journey Home is all about. It's God with us. And we want to be with people going through it.
Tim, you have inspired me today so much. And so I'm really glad that my mascara is waterproof.
I don't wear it, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing this story of love in our month of love. I said we open up the whole subject of love. What does it mean? What does it mean in sickness and in health? And it's being there. It's just walking through it. And thank you for being honest with your thoughts about God, because the first thing is like, wait a minute. We've been walking in this. Why is this happening to me? And it's just like, no, life happens to everybody.
Right.
It rains on the just and the unjust, and we all live it. But you have walked through this, and what you've shared today is just beautiful. And our love to Jen too. Thank you for the story.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to share a great song that right now Ascension Hospitals is using. It's from a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor. It's our friend Kelly Lang. And we're going to share it. Ascension Hospitals is using it. And it really exemplifies what you have said to your wife as a commitment. And it's a song called I'm Not Going Anywhere. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, Devin.
Take my hand, don't let go. Look in my eyes and in my soul. Hold me close, hold me near. Please let go of all your fear. I'm not going anywhere. Seasons change with the wind, but I'll be here till the end. Friends may come and then they go, but there's one thing you should know: I'm not going anywhere. I'd give my heart to you if yours stopped beating. Part your lips with mine if you weren't breathing. You have no burden that I wouldn't bear. I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here when you close your eyes. There's no place I'd rather be than here by your side. I'd give my heart to you if yours stopped beating. Part your lips with mine if you weren't breathing. You have no burden that I wouldn't bear. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere.
Kelly's got a really neat package called at kellylang.net of that song, and the first time she recorded it, the second time that she recorded it, and the story behind it. It's a really neat package, and you can just go to her website and find that. A lot of people are seeing that. Ascension hospitals across the nation are using that as their theme song, and she tells a beautiful story. Hopefully I'll get she and TG on to tell the story again about how he walked in. They were just dating, and that actually he put his arms around her, and she says, I was just green. I was going through chemo, and it was just a bad situation, and he had every reason to just walk, and he didn't. And I love when love actually means what it's supposed to, don't you? And we couldn't be having a story like this without talking about health insurance. And it's really terrible. I've had actual friends that were paying what they thought was a reasonable rate for health insurance. But when they ended up with issues with health, they ended up not having the coverage that they thought they did, even with an employer. So let me tell you about my insurance guy. If you find yourself in need of health insurance, one Google search and a questionnaire could start your phone ringing and those emails and those texts coming from companies all over, and it can be really confusing. And sometimes you get caught up in buying something only to find that it covers very little of what you actually need. And sometimes it can be too late to do anything about it. after the fact, like when you need your insurance. That's why one click to my friend, my insurance guy, Health Insurance Harvey, can keep that from happening. HarveyDurham.com. Chat with him, set up a virtual appointment anywhere in the country practically. He's licensed in 40 states. He'll look at your needs, your budget, and share every single thing that his insurance is going to cover and what it won't. You don't pay for what you don't need. If he can't save you money or can't give you better coverage, he won't sign you. You are under no obligation. So do yourself a favor. Get a free comparison quote from Health Insurance Harvey. It just might work for you like it did me. I'm not his commercial announcer. I'm his client at HarveyDurham.com. And we've got Big J here, Jameson Siebert from Monster Home Services.
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about the company and what you do.
Well, I actually used to work for a lot of larger companies that built these type of products. And then I actually went into the wholesale industry, and I was actually distributing these screen room products to those larger companies around town. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing. And since I kind of knew what the prices were they were paying, I could kind of set it to where we could take something like this, which was an existing patio, and then screen it in and make it more affordable for the homeowner without having to pay the large marketing, big commercials and things like that. So far we've been very, very successful with it. We have several colors to choose from. This particular unit here has privacy screen on it. Now notice how we can see really good from that from the inside out, but 15 feet away you cannot see inside of this room.
Privacy screen.
That's
I've
right.
never even heard of that.
We have several types of screen material. Another thing that we do is we always want these screens here, we always want them to be tight. We don't ever want them to get loose. So we actually use a special spline product that actually goes into a track and causes that screen to stay tight. A lot of people use what's called a round spline, like for instance in a window. This window here has what's called a round spline in it. And what we have found is that round spline, if the wind gets blowing hard, what happens is as it moves against these large screens, that a round spline will actually turn. So we actually use a special spline that's a flat spline. It goes into the track and it really locks it in so that, a lot of times people will put up a screen room and the screen room will breathe in a few years where the screen's loosened up and they have to pull a strip off and tack it back up. Well, this product right here, they're always going to stay tight like this. 5 years, 8 years from now, this screen is always going to stay tight.
Screened in activity rooms, outdoor kitchens, family game rooms that are outside, or great places to have friends over to watch the game. Monster Home Services has got great ideas. They're in Joelton, Tennessee, working all over the mid-state. And if a builder contractor calls them to do their work, they must, 1, be really good, and 2, be very affordable. Check out Monster Home Services for all they do, from covered porches, maintenance-free gutters, and basement encapsulations. Love our friends at Monster Home Services, and man, it gets me thinking every time I look at my patio and I can't use it because it's bad weather. Oh, I tell you who is wonderful, and I cannot wait to share his story with you. It's my friend Jeff Scott Wood, who joins us from Oklahoma. How are you? Let's see. I'm not hearing you. Oh, okay. Are you muted? Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? Till we get this little thing worked out, I'm going to play your video. Jeff Scott Wood. We're going to find out a little bit more of his story in just a second, but this is a beautiful love song. And remember, as we play these, every view is a vote. But our whole point is to get the songs out there. We need more love in the world, and Jeff is amazing.
Lost in the moment, frozen in time. Your skin on my skin, your eyes on mine. This is love. trusting together, knowing as one, something forever has just begun. This is love. When you know that you know, and you trust as you go, when you live to give yourself to someone else, heart and soul, this is love. Oh, this is love. Turning the pages, the chapters of life. Some days will be lonely, some so divine. This is love. Raising a family through thick and thin, trying to remember the way back when. This is love. When you know that you know, and you trust as you go, sharing smiles and tears and miles and years down a long winding road. This is love. Oh, this is love. Faces will wrinkle, hair will turn gray, memories will linger, memories will fade. This is love. Lost in the moment, frozen in time, a lifetime together, saying goodbye. This is love. When you know that you know, and you trust as you go, when you live to give yourself to someone else, heart and soul. Oh, this is love. Oh, this is love.
Jeff Scott Wood, I can hear you now. How are you?
Good. I'm great. So good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you too. If Jeff is new to you, and you didn't know him when he was in Nashville, you've had so many parts of your career. You had your record deal in Nashville, released the record, and then I knew you also as a praise and worship leader at, is it Bellevue Community Church?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's been a journey, quite a journey. An awesome one, but it's been fun.
Oh, it's just wonderful. And I love when I was looking at your bio and they referred to being a classmate at Oklahoma State with Garth Brooks. Did you guys come to Nashville around the same time?
No, Garth was there a few years before me. He actually played, like to tell the story that he played some frat parties that I sat 2 feet from him. It was pretty awesome. Garth playing, music just for a bunch of guys and girls just hanging out in a little fraternity house. But Garth moved to Nashville a few years before I did. My senior year, I called him. I got his number and said, I'm thinking about doing this. And Garth is so amazing. He said, come on out. I will show you around. And so he did. He met me there on Music Row, and we drove around for a couple of days. And he introduced me to all the people he knew. This is Jeff Wood. He wants to move out here and be a songwriter. And I didn't say it out loud at the time, but I was thinking, no, I don't. I want to move out here and be a star like you and get a recording deal. Little did I know, very naive, that you really, to get your foot in the door in Nashville, you've got to start your way as a songwriter. So I went back home, my tail between my legs, and said, I got to figure this out. And actually started law school, which to law school a couple years, and a crazy story. But long story short, I eventually went back to Nashville. I'd written several songs that caught the ear of a Nashville producer. He said, "You need to be here yesterday." And so I dropped out of my last year of law school and I made the move. Had an
Wow.
awesome time.
And cuts like The Cowboy and Me, right? For
Cowboy Love, John Michael
Cowboy Love. Yeah,
Montgomery,
Cowboy
and-
Love. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very blessed how that happened. Actually, I got a record deal and a publishing deal on the same day, and with Capitol, and they said, save all these songs you're writing. And ironically, John Michael, one of his guys that worked for him, came into our publishing office, and he heard a song that was playing over the system. They were making cassette copy back in the day, and it was my song that I'd just written. And he said, wow, that sounds cool. Is this on this list you're pitching us? And they said, no. He said, add it to there. And John Michael, literally, he called me a couple hours later and said, I'm going to cut this song. And again, I was so naive. I say, no, I'm saving this for myself. But it was probably, the best decision I ever made. My album, John Michael's album, I think sold 7 million copies. And mine, I like to say I went aluminum. So. it was a pretty good decision.
Jeff, this year people are wanting to write it off as a horrible year, but something really nice happened for you this year. You met the love of your life. Y'all got married, right?
I did. We got married January 4th, 2020, right before all this mess, that's cool, started. And it's been, in the year of COVID, it's been one of the best years of my life.
I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy to share your song. Thank you for sharing it with us. Our world needs so much more love right now. We are having we just need to overdose love wherever we go.
Yes.
Well, how do people find out more about you?
So I've got some songs out on, if you just go to Oohyah, OOHYAH.com. It's an online record label. You can find me there. I go as Jeff Scott Wood. Got a lot of new, honestly, I'm writing better than I've ever written. I loved collaborating in Nashville, but there aren't a lot of Don Schlitzes and Richard Lees in Oklahoma when I moved back home. So I had forced myself to dig deep and write by myself. The last song you heard, I wrote that by myself a few years ago, and written a ton of other solo songs that I'm extremely proud of and excited about.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about you. And now in our virtual world, everybody's writing virtually. So I might even beg you for a co-write if you would.
That'd be fun. Let's do it. I've got some ideas.
All right. It's so good to see you. God bless you. You have a great day. And thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to see you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, that is our show, and a great way, a beautiful send-off, Jeff Scott Wood, and what a great personality, and he's got such a good spirit about him. Thank you to Tim Hooper and to Jameson Siebert and our friends at Monster Home Services, and of course, Harvey Health Insurance, Harvey. And I just want to close with the way we always do things. Be safe, be kind, and remember, you are loved.